Okay, and here we go. Square layers on my Model 7. So I begin the haircut in the back, comb the hair to natural fall, and I'll cut in a square line. That's a 0 degree. Check for balance. Next section. When cutting in one length, probably the hardest thing is actually making sure that you're combing the hair exactly to where it falls naturally. So make sure that when you comb the hair from roots to your guidelines, that the strands of hair that you comb are actually parallel and mimic the 90-degree teeth of your cutting comb. So that'll be a good indicator whether you're combing the hair to natural fall or not. Constantly check for balance, visually and technically. Now cutting the one length, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. I prefer having my guest stand, and I can also cut in the line between the teeth of my comb, between my fingers, but if I use my fingers, I'll get a tiny amount of elevation. I can comb the hair to natural fall and then cut it in there, or I can comb the hair to natural fall, place my comb right above my guideline and cut using my guideline and my comb, because then I have two indicators, because the back of my comb is actually also a 0 degree line. So the more support I get technically, the stronger of a line I can cut in. Okay, so with this final section, just make sure you approach it with a little bit less tension. And it varies because every client, their cowlick is different. So you always have to take into consideration the cowlick. If you find a really intense one, just back off on the tension, or just comb it super, super soft. Or you can even flip off. If I'm cutting with like a 101, I can flip out to a 107 and use a wide teeth for just that jumpy area. And then once the hair is dry, I can always come back and recheck it. But also, since I'll be layering the haircut, that cowlick really won't come into play. You just keep on putting in your one length, check for symmetry balance. So now I move into the side. So I'll take a little bit guideline from the back. And through these sides areas, I'll angle my finger just a bit. And here I'll just cut in the one length. I'll be a bit quick about it because, again, after I cut in my one length, I will go in and I'll cut square layers. So most of the technical length through the front, it'll change when I cut in my layers anyways. Okay, so now starting on the right side, I comb the hair straight out. And just this time I'm cutting on the outside of my fingers. When you're cutting on the outside of your fingers, it's a little bit more dangerous. I mean, it's not as technical as cutting on the inside. But be aware of like your over direction and your elevation, because that's a lot of time places where people throw themselves off when you're cutting on the outside of your fingers. It can be done. I prefer with like super detailed work to cut on the inside of my fingers, but both ways are possible. It just takes a different amount of awareness and effort as to your over direction and elevation. Okay, and always make sure you're working with clean, manageable sections. And then notice how like this section is way bigger than my fingers. So I can break it into two smaller, more manageable pieces, or I can work from the top area first and the bottom area, or I can flip that around also. So just be aware that if your section is bigger than your fingers and you cut everything in one shot, you will get uneven lengths. When you're doing that, you're actually doing a terrible haircut. So take your time and do it right so you only have to do it once. Okay, and here as I approach the round of the head, still cutting on the outside of my fingers. Now if you find yourself your elevation or your over direction is a little bit off, over direction is easy to check from this position because you basically just have to look down. Your elevation, you can take a look in the mirror that's right in front of you and then make sure that your elevation is on. So that mirror can greatly assist you. Your mirror is also a cutting tool. And that's why we have mirrors on every station, because it's there to assist us. So again, working in small manageable sections. See how I'm combing the hair super straight out. My elevation, over direction is on. Check for symmetry and balance. Okay, so now on the opposite side, I have to do the exact same cut to make sure that the lengths are the same, your elevation, over direction are on, and just that the amount of awareness you bring into every section will make a substantial difference in the actual overall excellence of your finished product. Now here we go in and check for balance. Cutting symmetrically is challenging, so always check for balance. If you know what your challenges during a haircut are, and you pay extra attention towards those challenges, you'll actually find yourself improving dramatically just because of your awareness, and you'll find that within a short period of time, your challenges will evolve to a strength, and then you'll find new challenges. And also, like, what I find while I'm cutting long hair, one of my greatest challenges is actually my stroke count and the accuracy of my strokes. What I mean by this is that I have to make sure that I comb the hair perfectly clean, front roots to my guideline, which is like extremely challenging once you understand that your enemy here is actually gravity, and the further you pull the hair away from the scalp, the higher your level of difficulty becomes. You have to understand that, say in one same section, say you comb it out twice and cut it. Say the first time you comb it out, you over direct slightly low, or you elevate slightly low. The second time, you elevate slightly too high. Now that will change your lengths. It'll give you a shorter and a longer length. So you're actually messing up your haircut. So what I mean is that cutting perfectly is extremely challenging. It's supposed to be. And just that awareness, just that understanding of your danger points and paying extra attention to them so you don't have to make those mistakes, it'll shortcut you. Okay, like a good indicator to like where you should be combing the hair out at this point, it's like once you're at right behind the ear area, just aim for like the client's shoulders, because that's where the body physically falls into the right place for cutting like square layers through the sides. Now I begin in the back, right? So I have to assess the length that I cut through both sides. So when cutting in a new guideline, I always prefer to go longer than shorter. I always intentionally cut the guideline a little bit longer than what I feel is appropriate. Then I'll go back, check for symmetry and balance, and I can always go shorter. That is no problem. I just can never go longer. I can't make short hair that I already cut too short go back. That takes time. And I also look at it as an investment. For me to like cut a new guideline longer than I feel it should be at, it's like an additional 10 to 15 seconds at max. But then it saves me a lot of time in the long run, because if I make a mistake, then I have to go back and cut both sides in front of my client. She'll probably freak out, and if she doesn't freak out, she'll know that something's wrong. And chances are that she'll never come back to me again. We only get one opportunity to knock our guests their socks off. It's all about retention and referrals. And your clients are pretty aware that you already cut both sides. So if you go back and start cutting them all over again, things get awkward really fast. And so the best countermeasure is to go longer and then gradually go to the exact same length. So still working in my square layers through the back. I use consistent tension, consistent moisture, and I always like to go in and like visually assess the shape that I'm actually cutting. And here I'm just connecting both sides. I'm connecting the sides with the back, just rounding off that corner just a little bit. I'm building up this corner. And just nice, consistent strokes. Watch your elevation and over direction. And be careful on your stroke count. Okay, so here I'm approaching the left side of the back. My eyes are exactly where I'm cutting. so I can see all these details, fingers, elbows, scissors, section, all parallel. That'll allow me the greatest amount of control. And then, since I'm standing slightly at the side, right before I close my scissors and begin to cut, I go back really quick and visually check my over direction. I need to make sure that my over direction is always square with this technique, because again, we're cutting square layers here. I'm just working all the way down into the nape. So the one length at the nape, you see how that drops out? And you also have to have a bit of intention when you're cutting in your guideline, because you really don't want to change that one length through the back too much. Through the sides is fine, depending on the amount of weight you want to remove. Because again, when we layer hair, we're removing weight. We're removing heaviness in the hair. Especially with 7, she has a ton of hair. So you have to work with like super clean sections, and just every portion of that stroke, just you have to be aware. Otherwise it's almost impossible to manage thick hair. Okay, and let me change manage thick hair to command thick hair. When you're cutting hair, you have to, it's your job to command the hair, to command the shape. Now, it's possible to do this, but you need a heightened sense of awareness, a heightened sense of your natural tendencies to do something proper, your natural tendencies to do something wrong. So all this attention to detail will allow you to command the shape that you're building in the most excellent manner. Okay, and here we move to the top. So I'll come out a big section that incorporates the guidelines to the left, to the right, and the back. Starting at the crown area, I'll comb the hair straight out, and I'm just connecting all 3 guidelines. So the weight, the length in between, boom, you just knock it down. And as I cut the top portion, I'm chipping into it. So I'm not cutting in a super clean line, because I want that area to fall a bit more disheveled. Okay, and I prefer at this point of the haircut to stand like right behind the occipital bone. I could stand on the sides, which would be like I have to do yoga to knock this technique out perfectly. I can stand in the front, but then I'll always be a little bit off. So my body position, I prefer with this technique at this point to stand directly behind the occipital bone, because that's the point where I can line up my body best. Okay, so here I'll go in with the blow dry, and I'm just using a paddle brush. So I'll just start off just leafing the hair, bevel and turn it under. I don't want too much of an artificial shape here, so I'm just going for a smooth, super clean finish. Again, not too much root lift, just enough to give me a little bit of a bump so the hair doesn't look too flat and boring. And for this cut today, I'm not going in with a round brush, because once the hair is dry, I really have to go out and like refine and polish my haircut. So if I go in with a round brush and I blow dry it excessively poofy or with too much bend, the hair naturally won't dry like that. So what I get in the salon with the round brush, when my client gets home after she showers, the shape, you'll have some deviation just because it wasn't finished naturally. Okay, so now the hair's dry, I'm just going in really quick, and I'm just gonna texturize, cross check, and just remove the heaviness of her hair, because her hair is super thick. When I'm texturizing, I really don't want to go and alter my technical shape. I just want to give my shape a softer, more natural aesthetic to it. So again, working in manageable sections, and I just keep on working with my texture until I feel that I can comb the hair nice and smooth from roots to ends, because that's a good indicator that you've textured enough. As you comb the hair from roots to ends, if you over texturize it, you can kind of feel the density between the teeth of your comb. It's not too smart of an idea to go in and bust up a haircut too much, because again, you remove your structural integrity and it'll grow out bad. So anyway, that's our haircut, 7 with square layers on super thick hair. Enjoy.